everybody. Welcome to UGASports Live. My name is Radi Nabulsi. I'm joined by Dayne Young and Jim Donnan, the latter of which is a former Georgia Bulldogs head coach and a member of the College Football Hall of Fame. And the main reason everybody's joining us on a Wednesday night at 8 o'clock, we appreciate all of you being here. I was not around yesterday. I was actually down at Fort Moore watching my son graduate from Air Assault School. And a little to brag, he was the #1 cadet on the 12-mile ruck. He won the plaque for having the fastest time, 1 hour and 50 minutes for 12 miles with a full pack. He's a badass, and I got to go see him graduate, and that was a lot of fun. So I appreciate
cornerback.
Let me ask you this: Is the Air Force Academy trying to get him into the transfer portal?
It's like, hey guys, Annapolis, y'all better hit him up. We're taking all offers.
Yeah, it's hard for the old man to give it really good justification, but this young man has really taken on a lot of challenges and met them all. You know, he went through the dive school this summer, and now he's just finished this #1. He's going to Ranger School, and plus he's a top cadet there up there at North Georgia. So just impressive young man, and all of us are proud of him, not just his dad.
Yeah, we're all just thrilled to death with what he's done. So shout out to Ollie. And I appreciate everybody letting me have yesterday off so we could go see that. But we're here tonight to talk about the Georgia Bulldogs. And, Coach, right now, I mean, I could ask you about who they want to play, Indiana or Notre Dame. I could ask you about a million other things about Georgia-related, Gunner, Stockton questions. But the #1 question when I put on Facebook, what do you guys want to ask about or what do you want to talk about, is all transfer portal stuff. And I just want to get your thoughts on all this crazy transfer portal stuff, just overall, kind of like we do a game, because there's a lot going on, and we look to you for your wisdom. Help us out here.
Well, I think the transfer portal for other schools is a lot more important than it is for Georgia right now, just because of the roster we have as far as, on the one hand, incoming players, but also it's important. I don't want to poo-poo it for Georgia on who's going to stay here, because we really don't know until after the last game. You know, the rules are such that it's closing out this week, but the rules are, two of them are different. One, if your coach leaves, you got 30 days, and then the other one is 6 days after your last game, you can still transfer. So we could play in a championship game, win or lose, and 6 days with every player on our team would be eligible unless they didn't have any eligibility left. So one thing that I would also point out is it's going to look like we have more transfers than normal, but it's the new rule that's coming out next year. You can only have 105 players on your roster, and they could all be scholarship or any way you want to do it, but that includes walk-ons. So we have an inordinate amount of walk-ons just like anybody else. We've got the 20 specified that can practice early in the fall, and then we've got about 20 more that are outside that realm. So those kids got to find some place to go if they're on our team, if they want to keep playing football. So whether they go D2 or FCS or what it might be, but I don't want some big news outlet saying, hey, Georgia had a mass exodus. I mean, that's just happening because of the new rules the NCAA has started to try to relegate everything into this what we're going to do, this revenue sharing type deal with 105. So, but, you know, I feel good about where we are as far as the players we've lost. You can't blame them if they're not playing. And at the same time, I don't think we've had anybody significantly affect our team. Maybe Humphrey as far as the depth, but he wasn't playing as a starter anyhow. And the last point I would make is it's not always money in the situation. It's playing time. When you got a good roster and you got good depth, kids want to play, and we certainly try to play a lot of players, but it's hard to sit in there as a coach and look them in the eye and they got a freshman or sophomore starting ahead of them, and you're a rising junior and, you know, you can't get on the field. Kids want to play, and they got these deals, so you can't blame them for that. You know, fans can say, hey, where's the loyalty and all that, but, you know, I think if a kid sticks around here 2 or 3 years and doesn't get to play, more power to him if he can go somewhere else.
What would you think?
Roddy, I just, one image that I had in my head during all of this was how Georgia does invest resources and time into these players. And not saying that that should alter their decisions, but when Ja Jarrett goes in the portal, I don't get to go to a lot of practices, but the last 2 falls that I've gone to watch practice during the media sessions, it felt like that was Trey Scott's pet project. That I am going to turn Ja Jarrett into a college football defensive lineman. And that's just generally Trey Scott's. He's so passionate and energetic at what he does. And so Ja Jarrett's a better football player for having been at Georgia. Would he have played a lot at Georgia? I don't know. He obviously doesn't seem to think so, and that's why he transferred out. But I thought of that image in my head of how hard Trey Scott had worked with him the few times we got to see it.
Well, that seemed to be
ever since he got here, he's been a project from the standpoint of his weight. He was a younger kid coming out of high school, a little immature, and he's definitely benefited from it. And kids in our program are people want them in theirs because they know that they've been under the fire and under the tutelage of a demanding coaching staff, and they'll be good in fundamentals. But again, and we talked about this ever since that I've been on this show, is that there's always a tendency to think about players you don't have more than the ones you have. And that's just natural. I understand that. And the speculation that exists about why didn't we, like we had a great recruiting day on that Tuesday or Wednesday, but all the good guys we had coming in, there was a lot more angst about Terry not coming here than there was about the fact that we got all these guys. So, but I'm excited. I'm excited about Thursday, Friday, Saturday, these freshmen coming in here that can now come in and make my mouth water if I get to go over there, if I feel like it. I just had another part of my treatment on yesterday, and sometimes it takes me a little while, but I just think from my standpoint, that gets my juices flowing to see these young guys and see what they got and how. I mean, I remember Jordan Davis first rattle out of the box, and seeing Jalen Walker, just Jalen Carter. I mean, come on, and we've got some 5-stars coming in here this week that going to be really good to see them on the team.
Yeah, when you look at the fact that Ethan Barber is going to be here, and we saw how well he did last night winning another state title. Elias Williams will be here. The youngest guy's already on campus. You got Dominic Kelly, who was at IMG. He was a class of 2026 kid. He reclassifies in 2025. He's the first one to show up. So if you've got players who are already going to be here, and I'm with you, you kind of get caught up in who you're not getting and who's in the portal going somewhere else. But you got to remember, you signed one of the top 3 classes in the nation, and Georgia's going to get its fair share out of the portal. What I think is the more interesting thing is kind of what Dayne was touching on was, you hate to lose a few guys when you've put that much effort into them. I know Kirby was it Tariq Stevens? There's somebody he'd really worked on. Like, he's going to work on all of them, but then after they get a couple of years, they leave just when they're getting good. It's like, hell, just when you're getting interesting, you go. But I like the fact that Georgia's active in the portal. They're going to get their kids. They're not overpaying like some of these schools are doing. I know people get mad, but people are always fast to spend somebody else's money. Kirby's going to do the smart thing. If it comes to roster management, I'm always going to give Kirby the kudos and credit that he deserves. But, Coach, I want to ask you this. Would it be better if there was one portal period, say after spring ball? I know everybody wants to get these guys in immediately and have them go through spring practice, but I'm looking at that Penn State backup quarterback, the kid who lived to play at Penn State. And he had to go in there, forget his name, or something. And Penn State is in the playoffs. This is their backup guy. But he says, look, all the spots are going to be taken, Coach, before I can go into the portal.
Yeah, I think you got to look at it. You got to look at the time frame. I don't know what exactly it should be, but also the signing date right there, all of that together is just it's too many hats for every coach to wear. But as a Georgia guy, as people that watch this show, there's a couple things that I'm just going to give you an early Christmas present on. You can't believe some of the people that are contacting our program that want to come here. I mean, it's incredulous. So, but you got to decide, hey, is this guy going to help us? I mean, Is he going to fit in our program? Do we need him? How's it going to hurt us if we bring him in? And are we going to lose somebody else? So, but why wouldn't you want to come here?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a player on a good team, but not a championship team, so I think we can definitely refortify our team if we lose some players. And then the other thing is, why don't we spend the money? Why don't we do that? Listen, do you honestly, what time is it? 8:10. Do you really think that we've been able to be in the top 2 or 3 in the country the last 3 years because we're penny pinchers?
I mean, Carson Beck didn't come back for free. I'll put it that
seriously, we use our money. And I'm just saying they do it and they got it, but we haven't lost a player that we want, in my opinion, because of money. I mean, because we couldn't compete. Sometimes we don't offer them as much because we don't want to, but that's something you do better job on this dog vent talking about something else about why don't we pay and all that. We pay, but the same reason you might question Kirby on things, question him, but I mean, he's a good CFO, CEO. He's everything. He knows how to do it.
Yeah, Coach, I do want to ask you a question, though, about GHSA championships. And did you put more stock into a state championship game from a recruit? Like I'm thinking DeMello Jones' performance last year, C.J. Wiley this year, maybe even looking ahead to future classes like a Kamari Brooks at North Oconee. When you were a coach, how much extra attention did you pay to state title games or state semis?
Well, you like to see them in a good competition and how they're going to react, because a lot of these kids aren't involved in certain things around that. Sometimes they aren't used to playing in big atmospheres and all that. But but it definitely is to your advantage if you have a big game and show you can play in the pressure situations. But most of these kids are just really evaluated, first of all, in the camp. And that's as much pressure as you can have with Kirby over there looking at you and watching you do all the drills. I mean, if you can't handle that, you're not going to handle it. So, but you make a good point. I like to see how a guy plays when the band's playing and who's going to get the ball in the pressure situations and all that. And you also see in these games, time in and time out, it's just great for the communities to see all the way they react and they're behind the team and the schools. And football is just good sport. It's good for everybody because it's a rallying point. And it's good to see these kids react to the pressure, and you see the coaches react to the pressure. Some of these guys can't handle it. I mean, they never have. That's why they fold in these big instances. I mean, and some of them just, how do these coaches make these moves time in and time out, and they're successful, and how many of them don't make it and they're not successful? So you see a lot about coaching in these games too.
We got 2 reporters covering all the GHSA state championship games. Lance McCurley and Jed May are there. They've been reporting and giving us a lot of updates and video clips and great stuff. They're also scouting out some younger guys. And of course, they're covering the Georgia commits who are in these games who are doing well. There are a lot of Georgia targets in these games, so be sure to check out their updates on the vault at UGASports.com. They've had a ton of good stuff. And I also want to shout out Jed's big board series where he's talking about the new 2026 kids. I know everyone's focused on the transfer portal, but Georgia's turned the clock to class of 2026, class of 2027, class of 2028. And you got to know who are they trying to bring in 2026. And it is impressive. I mean, it's already 12 different offensive guards that they're looking at, that they're actively recruiting. It is a well-oiled machine, which is why I'm like, hey, I'm not going to get bent out of shape about the transfer portal because I'm going to go with Kirby's core players and who he's bringing in. He's going to get them out of high school.
Seriously, tell me, who have we lost right now that makes your ass scratch?
I will tell you one, Coach, and it's just because I was expecting more from him, not from the school. I really thought Sam Mpemba was going to be that guy.
I thought he would too, but I mean, based on what they've done here,
barely played.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. So
No, you haven't lost anybody of note.
My deal with anybody that ever wants to leave any program, whatever it is, get a glass of water, take it, pour it through your hands, and tell them that's how long your team's gonna miss the guy. That's how long it takes to hit the ground. And I'm not being anything realistic. What can you do? You can't just throw your hands up and say, "Oh, I mean, it definitely worries you, but I would just say, that Harris kid we lost last year, definitely. I mean, that sucker's starting for Penn State. I mean, he was good, and things just didn't work out. But I would say, for the most part, we've had an unbelievable retention rate here. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I mean, every time I think, oh no, Sam's not going to play, I look at Damon Wilson on third down. I'm like, okay, that's why he's not playing. Damon Wilson is a bad man. And look at the guys that played this year. Chris Cole, the freshman, and what he's done. KJ Bold and the amount of snaps he's done. You've seen flashes from Ellis Robinson, but you don't win a couple of your games without Nate Frazier, the true freshman running back. So,
this is just amazing. Hey, amazing year to have 11 wins. I mean, and the way to set up here for the playoffs, who knows how far, but just tremendous job by the players and coaches. I mean, a lot of adversity.
Well, Coach, it's also in Kirby's mantra of just you can control what you can control, and if you worry about something else, that's a waste of energy. So if a player is leaving, they're not on your team anymore. So you have to talk about who is on your team.
Right.
They move ahead pretty fast. I mean, it's the same with injuries.
He's good about not bagging on a guy. I mean, he says, hey, he gives them credit and he hates for him to leave and all, but it's just it's a new frontier out there. I mean, you look around the country, and some of these guys aren't going to end up with anything, but it's definitely, boy, I just don't. Some of these teams, 25, 30 guys at a time, like Marshall just won the Sun Belt Conference. It's just really unbelievable.
TJ Finley going to his fourth school.
Where's he going now? Well, he was hurt this year at Western. Where's he going now?
Tulane.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
something else that surprises me. These guys leave one day, and before their picture hits the Twitter, they're already saying where they're going the other place. So, I mean, these deals are struck. That kid Mensah from Tulane left, and before you knew it, he was at Louisville, and then that guy from Duke, I don't know where he's going to go, but and then kid is going from OU going to see if Freeze can develop him at
Johnson Arnold. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. If you want to transfer, you can transfer with our friends at Athens Ford. You can transfer from your old jalopy into a new vehicle or a pre-owned vehicle, and you will know that you are getting a good deal because they have a lifetime powertrain warranty on them. They give you the Carfax report on it. They will show you everything they found on a pre-owned vehicle that 200-something point inspection, and of course the new ones are perfect top to bottom. So if you're like, hey, I need to transfer out of what I'm into something better, I'm looking to improve my lot in life, check out our friends at Athens Ford. They're doing a fantastic job supporting the Athens community. Of course, if you go out to the Botanical Gardens, they have all the lights up out there. It's one of the main sponsors, if not the main sponsors, Athens Ford. So if you want to do something fun in the community, go check out the lights at the Botanical Gardens put on by Athens Ford. And of course, they've also been working with the Angel Tree, and they've been giving $100 gift cards towards the Angel Tree for every vehicle sold. And let me tell you, with all the fleet vehicles they sell, all the commercial vehicles, all the people trading in their cars, all the new vehicles, all the certified pre-owned that they sell, that is thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars that goes into the Angel Tree from our friends at Athens Ford. They're big in the community, and they're huge Georgia fans. And I can guarantee you that the folks there will be in New Orleans right off the bat. And while you're on that side of town, swing by the Academia Brewing Company. It's a great place if you're trying to have a Christmas get-together, or heck, you want to watch these games coming up this weekend. There's going to be a lot of great playoff games. I'm going to ask Coach about who's going to win each one of them. You're going to be able to take that to the bank and do your parlay based on what Coach says. He doesn't know that yet, but we're going to put him on the spot. But if you're looking for a great place to watch your games, go out to Academia Brewing Company. You'll be very glad you did. They have tons of great beer. Also, the beer out there makes for a great gift. If you have somebody in your family who's really hard to buy for, who doesn't like good beer? So you go out there, you get them some good beer, or you can get them gift cards, or if you've got family over and you've had the big Christmas dinner, or you're not sure what everybody's going to do for dinner, take them out to Academia Brewing Company. It's a fantastic restaurant and it's a great brew pub. So it's plus great meeting space. In other words, it's a great place in the community for you to go with your family, with your friends, watch games, have a Christmas event. You'll be glad you did so.
Coach, a couple other things in college football this week that just wanted to get your opinion on. We'll start with Mateer, the quarterback from Washington State, transferring to Oklahoma. I know you have your Oklahoma ties, and from all accounts, this is one of the bigger gets in the portal this offseason.
Yeah, it's kind of a given. His offensive coordinator left Washington State and took the OC job at Oklahoma, and it was kind of a given that it was kind of a package deal. But there's a little angst over there tonight because the head coach at Washington State is now taking a Wake Forest job, and there's some rumor that maybe this 29-year-old phenom Arbuckle might go back as the head coach at Washington State. And if that happened, you got to think he'd maybe get this kid to go with him. So from my standpoint, I hope he stays there at Oklahoma. But he's definitely a very good guy. And he, if you just go back to Washington State the last 2 years, they had Cam Ward the year before, who ended up being tremendous at there, and then played really well for down in South Florida for Miami. And now this kid, Mateer, who's more of a dual threat type guy from a running perspective. He runs a lot like Tebow type, maybe not quite as big, but a very accomplished runner and a pretty good passer. But OU's got to get a total revamp. I mean, they got defensive issues, offensive line issues, receivers. They got to hit the portal hard, and I think they're hoping they're going to get the Pied Piper effect with this Mateer kid coming in.
And then you mentioned the Wake Forest coaching change with Clawson leaving into a different role at Wake Forest, just leaving coaching. His reference for why he was doing it was because of how much the sport has changed, which we've talked about for months and years at this point. When you talk to fellow coaches in the industry, do you get some of the same vibes that some of them aren't as invested like maybe they would have been a decade ago?
Yeah, I just think the reality is hit. I mean, it used to be Wake Forest, you could get a few good guys and you could outmaneuver somebody and all that. But now with the advent of the portal and also the situation with the money involved, you look at their quarterback last year, had a chance to come back, but he transferred to Notre Dame for the money. And he's lost some good coaches. I mean, his number one assistant is now the head coach at Texas A&M. The guy coached with him at Fordham, at Richmond, at Wake Forest, and you lose some of your assistants too. So it's more of a reality instead of the issues with the ball. I think it's just the fact that I don't see a lot of these have-nots being able to, even with some money, being able to get up with the big boys, because here's the thing. The big boys got the money and the players want to go play for them because they're the ones playing for championships. So maybe, the reality is hitting that as hard as I can coach, I mean, they were a little bit over 500, but the last 2 years he's been 4-8. And it's hard to go out there every week knowing that you don't have as full a deck as the other team.
And that's another way that I think college ball is tending to trend toward NFL. When you see a Gus Malzahn, who's been a head coach as long as he has, choose to be an offensive coordinator at Florida State, or you see a Chip Kelly, who's coached programs at a high level, be an offensive coordinator, it does seem like a lot of the experience that really wants to focus in on ball and not the CEO of a program, they may be more happy to go to coordinators, and the money can dictate that now.
Yeah, I think it's easier for guys like Malzahn and certainly Chip Kelly, who's had these buyouts. I mean, Kelly's had one from the Eagles, the 49ers. He's had plenty of package there. And then you saw that package that Coach Malzahn got from Auburn. And I think really, as much as I think they want to coach, but the handwriting's on the wall at UCF. You don't win this next year, it's probably over. And the same thing with UCLA. So maybe that was why they did it too. But but they're both really brilliant tacticians, good offensive coaches, and they're old school in their systems. They know what they believe in to the point of being hard headed sometimes, i.e., Chip Kelly against Michigan. I don't even know what he was doing in that game, but we'll see how that works out. But I just think after you've been the chief Indian, the head honcho, the grand poobah, it's hard to go in there and be number two. It's hard to do it.
Yeah. I'll want to ask you a bunch of questions about Georgia, Coach, but while you just mentioned Chip Kelly, and while we're talking other schools, what's your take on this Ryan Day situation?
Yeah, I just think it's overwhelmingly biased towards just one team. The fact that they haven't been able to beat Michigan, certainly that's something that you got to look at. But the guy's got an unbelievable record. I mean, 66 and 10 in today's college football. He lost to maybe the number one team in the nation for the next few weeks, maybe win it all in Oregon by 1 point. And he lost to I guess the thing that's kind of propelled it is 3 straight losses to Michigan. And then this year, the 4th one, when he was a 20-point favorite, makes it tougher because those people, and I know how you got to beat your rivals. I mean, that we weren't able to do that here, trying to catch up, being on probation, and just weren't able to catch them. And I can understand that. But in his case, I don't think they're going to be able to get somebody that can recruit like he can, that can coach like he can, and have any better record. Maybe somebody might be able to beat Michigan, but I just don't see him letting him go. Now, all of a sudden, they get their pants pulled down by Tennessee. It might just be a program that's in a situation that they just can't. There's so much public outcry, they won't be able to do anything. But I think he's certainly deserving of staying to be the coach, in my opinion. And people around here, I mean, Kirby's the best coach in the country. He's done a tremendous job in so many areas, every area. But if you use the rationale they're using on Coach Day, and you use the Alabama rationale on us, they would say, well, we need to get Kirby. I mean, you can't.
He's on the hot seat, Coach.
You can't do that. I mean, you look at the overall deal, and you look at like Michigan, the last 3 years, not this year, but the 3 years before, 2 of them were in the playoffs, the teams that he lost to. And he got in the playoffs 1 year, even losing it to them, I think. So, I mean, he's a good coach, and he wouldn't have any trouble getting a job. I can tell you that.
True. I do want to ask this question from Mike Smith, talking playoffs. He says, Coach, who do we want to win this weekend between Indiana and Notre Dame?
The thing about it, you look at these teams, and they both got really good programs and a lot of things going. I think Notre Dame probably has more athletes than Indiana. Indiana's got a good system. Notre Dame's a little light in the britches up front defensively, and they put a lot of pressure on him. Got a tremendous secondary, probably as good as there is in college football with all the interceptions they've had. Indiana, line of scrimmage, maybe a little thicker on defense and not as good on the back end. Both of them's offense presents problems. Riley Leonard's a great running quarterback and can throw. And then this kid I've studied in the Indiana. But, Indiana's hadn't played a very tough schedule when you look at it. Neither has Notre Dame. But I would say, just from a standpoint, I would be surprised if Indiana beats them. And probably an easier matchup against Indiana. But I don't think either one of them is going to be easy. But just because of the because who's Indiana hadn't played teams like us, I don't think. I mean, they played Ohio State and got beat pretty handily, and they barely beat Michigan. So, but they say it's snowing out there today. I don't know. Is it still snowing in Notre Dame?
I saw that it was going to be snow in Pennsylvania. I don't know if it was going to be in Indiana by game time. So, but it'll be cold either way. And Notre Dame is a good running team. One of their running backs, I think, will be kind of in the Heisman discussion next year. And then we know what Riley Leonard can do running.
Yeah, anyway, there's no easy games in the playoffs, but I think, from my perspective, you got to worry about your own team. And I feel like these days off and and the chance to get everything in order with Gunner and get our punter used to things. And I mean, that's a big thing going into a game. The first college punt's going to be in a playoff game. I mean, that's going to, and hopefully he doesn't have to punt much, but I think we can't take our punting game for granted in that game, particularly against Notre Dame. They blocked 3 punts this year.
We got a lot more questions, but I want to hit up our friends over at Red and Black Water real fast, because you can now get a free bottle of the Red and Black Water, and you just basically go to the website, check it out. You go buy the Red and Black Water at any of the locations, and they have a location finder on there, so you can type in your zip code and see the closest place to you. Of course, it's all in the Athens area, the Golden Pantries, the Bells, the Striplings, and places like that, but they're having statewide distribution. It's hitting more and more stores and store shelves around the state. The reason I want to mention them real quickly is because Georgia's in the middle of the transfer portal player retention era right now. You got players who are looking at the portal. You got players you're trying to keep from going pro. Not keep from going pro. You're trying to incentivize the wait to go pro. And you have some players you'd like to keep here who are getting offers from somewhere else. Well, every bottle that is sold of Red and Black Water, proceeds of that bottle of water go to Georgia's NIL efforts. That's the entire reason it was created. So if you drink bottled water, drink Red and Black Water. It's very simple. And if you got a young punter who's going to have his first punt, well, if he's losing too many nutrients, he can have some Red and Black Water and he'll do fine. Also, if you're not a person who drinks bottled water, you can still help out Georgia's NIL efforts through the Bulldog Snacks page. Go to bulldogsnacks.com and you can see their Bulldog bars and their Bulldog chocolate chip cookies. Of course, the granola bars are great. They got the toasted almonds, the oats, the chocolate, the protein. They're great bars. The Georgia football players eat them by the score. They get as many as they want. And of course, all the athletes, when they get their little pickup bags, they have the Bulldog bars in them. They also have the chocolate chip cookies. But this is a company who's already sent a big fat check to the University of Georgia, helping out 12 different student athletes. And they could be doing more. So you don't have to write Georgia a giant check in NIL. Just go to bulldogsnacks.com. And of course, these also make a good gift. If you have somebody in your family who is a Georgia fan, and let's say that they can't get these in the grocery store where they're at, send them the sample pack. They get the Bulldog bars and the chocolate chip cookies, and it's free shipping. So if you're looking for some good gifts and you want to help Georgia's NIL efforts while they're going, trying to get Zachariah Branch, and they're trying to get quarterbacks and defensive ends and all these different players, and you can help Georgia, but you don't have to be a multimillionaire. Just don't buy Nature's Own or Golden Valley or Cliff or whatever bars. Just get them from Bulldog Snacks.
Hey, Coach, bring me into what Georgia has been doing with Gunner Stockton since we last saw Georgia play, and then how that changes when you wake up on Saturday morning and you know who the opponent is in the Sugar Bowl.
I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not privy to what they do. I just think the one thing that's overwhelming in my mind, knowing Kirby and knowing Bobo, is this guy's been prepared all year to be the quarterback in case something happens. So it's not like he's having to do anything different in practice as far as what's expected of him, because he's been a major part of every game plan, all the meetings, all that. But the other thing that's helped him, he's gone against the number one defense for 2.5 years, and a lot of times with a lot lesser line than what he has now with the number one offense. So I think his preparation as far as experience is a lot better than some people might in the outside world might know about. But as far as just, one of the things I used to always do with somebody that was all of a sudden having to do a better, have a more demonstrative or a bigger role in your program than before is bring them in the office and talk to them about, you just got to be you and blend in. You don't have to try to do more than you're capable of. We got a good supporting cast. We're going to work with you. And also ask him what he likes and what he doesn't like, just because that's what's important. A lot of times you just take for granted he likes this or that, but communicate. And I'm sure Kirby's done that with the first team guy, but now this is a guy. So you want to do that and just build it up. It can't build false confidence, but just reiterate to them how much you believe in them and how much you're counting on them, and the players certainly will do that too. And as far as the Saturday morning, they will take out everything they've got on Notre Dame or Indiana and discard it, and then go hell bent for election on just like you're playing another team. But I know with our bevy of analysts and everything, we've got a file on every team in the playoff, all 11 teams, because you're going to have to be ready to rock after that Orange Bowl, be ready for the Orange Bowl after the Sugar Bowl, and have that stuff available, so you'll have one more game to add to it. So with all the analysts and all the computers and all that, we'll have good files on them. But I think what they've tried to do last week was work more on ourselves and self-scout, and then this week a little bit kind of like what you do in an off week, and work a little bit on both teams just from a standpoint of familiarity. And then Saturday morning, let's get rolling.
I was thinking when you mentioned Drew Miller, his first punt will be in the playoffs. I don't want to jinx it, but you saw that hit Gunner took when he was running, and they needed a backup quarterback to come in. Carson Beck can't come in because of his busted arm. How can you imagine Ryan Puglisi, his first snap?
Yeah,
or Jaden Rashada.
Same thing with those guys, though. They've been out there going against our guys. So I mean, it's definitely. I mean, anybody watching would know it's different out there when the band's playing. But I just can't make a more demonstrative statement than to tell you the biggest pressure any kid ever experiences at the University of Georgia is practice. There's no more the way they are, what they're asked to do in practice, and the number of reps that they get, and the time they save, and the wasted motions they get, and the teaching that goes on. It's incredible. It is really incredible. And I've been around a lot of places, but that's no homer talk. It's just reality. So these kids are prepped for it. That's why they step in and do it.
Well, and Coach, you'll like this. I step out of my office the other day at Grady College, and I'm walking to my parking lot. And typically there's a lot of noise on campus, but it's pretty quiet right now. And, you know, look, most people this close to Christmas, their work intensity decreases. I could hear Kirby on, like, the practice speaker all the way down at Buttsmere from Grady College in the middle of campus. Now, I couldn't understand what he was saying, but I could hear him on there, to the point that I walked down to the stadium wondering, are they practicing in the stadium? Are they that close? And it was just that the noise was traveling that far.
It's intense. I mean, there's no question about it. And it's intense most places, but I just think the competition here, the drills they do are all thought out and well conceived. We do a drill called competition drill, where on one end of the field, the offensive line is working half line over here, one-on-one protection like the tackle will go, then the guard against a DN or D tackle, and then on the other side, the same thing. Then on one hash mark, you got the tight ends and linebackers going one-on-one, rushing the passer or running the route. And then over on the other hash mark, you got a receiver and a quarterback throwing the route one-on-one against the DBs. And it's called a competition period. And it's just, hey, it's you against this guy, and nobody else is out here but you. And it's one-on-one. But they're all going 1, 2, 3, 4 on the circuit around there. And it's just very, very complete from the standpoint that every drill counts. But in this case, you're getting graded against your competitor, the other quarterback or the other guy you're going against, and everybody sees it because you're not running plays. You're just one-on-one competition. And one of the best overall team drills I've ever seen for pressure, to see how they're going to react. And it's also so salient about position, like the defensive linebacker and the running back. Sometimes the linebacker will blitz and the running back has to pick him up, and sometimes he won't, and then he's got to cover the guy on a route. So it's all football, but it's one-on-one, and just outstanding.
Dayne, you want to hit the questions from UGASports? Because I got some others from Facebook, but we want to give priority to those folks.
Let's do it. Bulldog Ben says, if we play Notre Dame, who struggles more pushing the ball downfield, the Dogs or the Irish?
You mean as far as in the air pushing it?
That's what I'm assuming, down the field in the air, because both teams are likely going to be prioritizing the run.
I just feel like this two things. I think it's a big misnomer about Riley Leonard, about his ability to throw. I watched him at Duke last year. I watched him this year. He can throw good enough to hurt you. I mean, he can really, particularly with his threat of the run and the play action. And the same thing's true with Gunner. These people are saying, well, he's not back. He's not back, but, he's got a good arm and he's got velocity. He's got velocity, and, you just can't typecast the guy because he's a second team. He brings some different values, some different attributes, and the guy that's going to benefit, the two guys that are going to benefit more than anybody are Etienne and Frazier, because they're not going to be able to play the power like they normally will, because he can run the power read and keep the ball. They're not going to be able to run crash down on the inside zone, because he can read it and keep it. He doesn't have to be a call. They're not going to be able to play as aggressive on the outside zone, because he can run the naked bootleg on you. So he brings a lot of factors in there, and the other people that probably taking him out to eat a few times are these tight ends, because hey, you see how good they looked against a really good defensive front like Tennessee with the play action, the way we were able. That's what we can do against Notre Dame with our running game. It's just critical for Etienne to be. If Etienne's like he was last week, that'll be huge for us.
UJ Alum 95. At what point does losing players who have opted to go into the transfer portal hurt Georgia's depth for the Sugar Bowl, or has that point been reached? He thinks it's crazy that players are jumping off of college football's number 2 team.
Yeah, I mean, we hit it a little bit earlier. Guys start thinking about their own chance to go somewhere, and they get these offers, and you can't blame them if they're not playing on the playing time. But it does hurt your depth. And I think at this point, the one guy that hurts our depth is Humphrey, because he was a backup corner. But all these other guys were in roles where they weren't really playing a lot. So, I wouldn't think you'd see anybody else hit the portal from our perspective until after a game, because of, they don't want to come over here and be practicing and get hurt and all, and then thinking they're going in the portal. Not that they would get hurt, but it'd be a risk. But I think we've done a good job of Kirby saying that one day. Say, hey, if you're leaving, you need to get your ass out of here. Otherwise, let's go practice. He wouldn't say that word like that.
Billy Zane says, with the 3 weeks in between games, does it help Gunner more to get all the work with the first team offense in practice, or does it help Mike Bobo more to have that time to focus on Gunner's strengths and weaknesses to design the offense accordingly?
As usual, good question from Billy, but I think what really helps is the two backups, because they haven't played at all in the reps. They've been out altogether. Now all of a sudden, Gudriski and Rashada are getting all those second team reps, and Gunner's getting the same amount that he got as the first team guy now instead of the second team, because he was doing it with the second team. So I think it definitely helps those two. And then as far as Mike, maybe condense a few things that maybe Beck did that Gunner doesn't feel as good doing, and add the things that Gunner does pretty well. And you could see in the game, Gunner, right from the get-go, he's up there checking protections. He's up there running the show. I mean, he knows how to do it. I mean, he's a very accomplished mental quarterback. He knows football. So I think Mike could probably make a few adjustments, that's for sure.
He was quick with the reads in high school. You saw that, Coach. I mean, it's not like he's sitting there having to stare at a guy going, what's he going to do? He made those assessments quick.
Hey, I went life or death on Gunner, Stockton, and Malachi Starks. I went over there with you to Jefferson to watch that game, my daughter and I, and the lightning hit. And I swear to God, I thought I was down on the lightning. I mean, I was close. Roddy was sticking around and taking pictures and all. I said, I'm going to the car, man. But That was a good
whole.
I think that's the last. I mean, I've been to a couple of games since then, but I wanted to see him. I mean, I'd heard about him, and nothing like eyeballing the guy, and I was impressed, and I was impressed with Malachi too. I mean, and Sammy, and it was a heck of a game, but I only watched a half of it.
We'll get to two more from the event after. Roddy, you always tell me to go to Facebook and check out Reinhardt Equipment Company, and this one got me when they are doing the they call it the Bombas Tree Miracle, and check out this bobcat with the Christmas tree on top.
Hey, they can move that. They can move. They can move anything. I also like the fact that he's got the tractor that he's driving around up front. Saying, "Hey, if you're looking for holiday gift ideas, we got some." Now, I had to look up Section 179. I mentioned the 179 deduction in the IRS guidelines. Now, basically, for folks, if you know you're going to get hit hard with taxes, call Big Dan the Bobcat Man and talk to him about Section 179, the tax incentive there, because it's a situation where they can work for you. They have you can get a huge take instead of pushing something out over multiple years, take it all at once, and it really cuts down on your tax liability. So want to get one of those big equipment things, I think it has to be over like 6,000 pounds or something. Reach out to Big Dan, the Bobcat Man up in Rome, Georgia. And of course, if you're doing some work over the break and you need rentals and stuff like that, they've got it all. So check out Big Dan at Reinhardt Equipment Company. And if you don't have your own Reinhardt Equipment Company, you can reach out to our friends at Europi. Like, hey, I'm not ready to move a giant, I'm not going to move earth, but I'm just going to move my stomach from empty to full. And the best way to do that is to reach out to Europi. There's 70 plus locations. They had a deal right now where if you go to into their Europi locations, and they have a little thing on the screen where you scan your app. If you scan your app, they have a reward for you. So you can get a free pizza or a free gelato or free drinks. It's a little surprise. It's not going to be the same every time. So if you actually go into the location to eat or to pick up something, scan your Europi app, and they've got a free holiday surprise for you. So it's a neat little thing they're doing there, and they can help you move from, I would say they can move you from skinny to fat, but they can also move you from fat to skinny because you can choose exactly what you want on your pizzas and such. Last but not least, I do need to mention our friends at myperfectfranchise.net, because not only do they sponsor this show, but they sponsor our daily recap. So there's a lot going on in the transfer portal. Our man Jason Butt is writing a recap every day of what's happened that day. So, I put up like 8 notes yesterday, 11 the day before, 13 or 14 the day before that.
How many views are on that thread?
It's over 212 or 210,000 people have clicked on that thread to read all the updates, because we're doing it every day. We started on December 1st. Today's the 18th, 18 days of updates. We actually hit the limit, the character limit. They said, hey, you can't post anymore in this thread. We had to get the character limit bumped up so we can keep adding to it. But that's all sponsored by our friends at myperfectfranchise.net, because they understand that people want news, people want information, and they give you information on how to start your own company with established franchises that are out there, and they get you into the right one. So reach out to Angelo Decky. He'll get you squared away.
All right, Coach.
You talking about that guy. What is his name? Big Dan, the Bobcat Man.
Yeah. He's a riot.
Yeah, I'm Bill Parcells and I are sitting in this sports bar in Orlando one time, and this guy comes up to me and says, I'm Big Bill from Jacksonville, and I'm the #1 zipper salesman in the country. And I'm saying, hey, Big Bill. Yes. And I'm just looking at this guy, but I don't know why I brought that up. It's pretty, but Big Bill from Jacksonville. The #1 zipper salesman in the country. So Big Dan, the Bobcat Man.
Coach, you had alluded to this earlier, but I'm going to put you back on the soapbox. A Tale from Two Dogs asks, can Georgia throw over the middle without Carson Beck?
Sure. I think I got a lot of confidence in Gunner's passing ability, and that's not any dreaming of it. I've seen him do it. He can rope it. He can throw it.
And final one from the dog vent from Chris Landino. Just wants to know your predictions for the first rounds of the playoffs this weekend. So I'll go one by one for you. SMU at Penn State.
I just think Penn State's got too many players for them. Certainly SMU's got some ability, and particularly at quarterback. But unless James Franklin takes the gas, which he could do, I mean, he could find a way to screw it up. I'm going to go with the Nittany Lions.
Clemson at Texas.
I mean, I just don't see any way Clemson's going to be able to block that front. Klubnik's going to have a game of his life, and yours is going to have to turn the ball over. But I think Texas big.
Tennessee at Ohio State.
This is the game to me that could go. The visiting team could win just because Tennessee's defensive front. Ohio State's got some injuries, and their offensive line. Tennessee can run the ball. If Nico plays B-plus game, they can win this game if Ohio State gets tight. And they could get tight, but Ohio State's got the roster to do the job. So I'm going to pick Ohio State, but that's the closest game to an upset of any, I think.
And then Indiana at Notre Dame.
I got to take touchdown Jesus in this. I just think too many athletes.
There's a huge effort on the Tennessee fans to try to go in and get as many seats in the horseshoe as possible. But there's one guy who's really trolled them really well, and he is calling. You can play music on that little electronic jukebox in all the Waffle Houses, and he's playing Rocky Top in all the Ohio State area Waffle Houses. They're getting bombarded with Rocky Top songs. So it is on. They are trying to buy up as many tickets.
Really though, those people go to Bob Evans up there. They don't go to Waffle House. I mean, have you ever been to Bob
Evans? Is good. I love that place.
You ever been to Bob Evans?
I have, absolutely.
Hey, I'm telling you now, that's one of the worst things that happened to me. I mean, as much as I love moving to Georgia, I miss Bob Evans. Oh, I'm telling you now. And
every time I go cover a Kentucky game, I stop at the one on the way back.
Yeah.
We got some other questions.
That one lady in there, I think her name was Marie or something. Sure glad you came, Coach. Sure glad you came. Okay, thanks a lot. I'm glad I was too.
This is a good point made from our friends over at the HBTFD Dogcast. They'll play the Tennessee hype video before they run out into the field at Ohio State because technically, yes, it's a home game, but the College Football Playoff runs this thing. And so it is not going to completely feel like a one-sided home game. Tennessee gets some shine on the scoreboard in pregame.
Well, that's good, I'm sure. But there'll be 3-1 Ohio State fans there. But like I said, if Ohio State starts going south and not playing like they need to, you just don't know if you're going to start getting some boos out of them. So, but Ohio State's a very talented team. I mean, you look at some of their receivers and just when their quarterback is very capable, but he hasn't done the job like he needs to in the big games. That's for sure.
All right, Coach, I'm gonna try to get some rapid fire ones in here to.
Let's go for it. Rapid fire.
Barking Bill asks, "Will we look for a new quarterback? Will Carson Beck come back? If not, who is the QB next year?"
Yeah, I think you just always got to keep replenishing your room, and anytime you can improve it, you look at it. So there's some guys out there that we might take in the portal if it all works out. But, every quarterback knows there's going to be competition at Georgia. There's good players here. So that's for Kirby to decide, not me. But as far as who the guy would be, I think certainly Gunner can cement himself as a starter day one by doing the job here throughout these next 3 games. But that's up to him to do that.
And, Coach, I'll just point out the number of players that you've mentioned that have interest in coming to Georgia. You look at how, like, a Van Buren from Mississippi State transferring to LSU, even though Nussmeier's still there. The backlog of quarterbacks, some of these guys are willing to go do that to be a future at the big-time programs.
Yeah, and I think that herein lies the situation. You can fortify that if the guy knows that, hey, this is who we're going with. But if it's a big gun, then you got to say you're going to give him a chance to be the guy too. So that's a real slippery slope there. So there's a couple guys out there that, if we still are talking to them, we'll just have to see what happens. I don't know enough about that. I purposefully don't try to find out about that, so I can't be accused of giving away something, because I really don't know enough about it to even comment, except you got to build your team as it is and try to win the playoffs and not worry about next year trying to get somebody for depth at the expense of the team you got right here. So it's a real slippery slope.
Yeah, we're seeing that with we just mentioned the backup guy at Penn State and having to go in the portal. The timing is just god awful.
Well, you can't blame him if he's looking for, say, this other school saying, look, if we can't get you, we're gonna go for somebody else, and which they can hold that over their head. But the kid's been loyal to Penn State. He's fought it out. But all of a sudden, on one day, the Allar, the quarterback, states that, hey, I'm coming back next year. Well, handwriting's on the wall for that kid.
Absolutely. So, the other question Bill had was thoughts on Carson Beck maybe coming back.
Yeah, I really feel like, from my standpoint, I just want Carson to, first of all, for him to know exactly what's entailed with his elbow and his arm, and then get on the best path to recovery, and then see where he stands as far as the draft and all that. But I would be really surprised if he, unless he just has an unbelievable injury, that he wouldn't go in the draft myself.
I agree. Athens Bound asks, will the team practice in New Orleans?
Of course. Yeah, they got to. What we do is you try to treat and be fair to the people there, because they do have the bowl. The bowl is associated with the playoffs, so there's some events down there that you're required to do. But I don't think you go quite as much as you normally would, because it's not the end of the season. When you finish the game, you got to go on to another one. So my understanding is we're going to leave here after coming back for a couple of days of practice, then go down there and practice a couple of days.
Yeah, they arrive on the 29th, so you don't play till the 1st, so you've got the 30th and 31st that you'll be in New Orleans.
So really, 29th, we might practice here, then fly down there, then practice on the 30th, walk through the 31st, and then play.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Play some Fats Domino in the music and get it going.
Dog Days asked this the other week, and I didn't get to it, but I think it's still interesting. Coach, did Monroe Freeling take the left tackle spot? What is the latest with Ernest Green?
I think it's a combination of Ernest being hurt, Monroe playing good, doing the job, and I don't know to what extent that Ernest is 100% yet. So I can't say that. Be a good question you ask Kirby about, but I think certainly it's helped our depth if Green's back 100%. Though you got 3 tackles now you can count on.
Yeah, so if Green is 100%, who do you think starts?
Why do you?
I'm just curious.
I'll go on the limb. I'll say Freeling, because that's what's worked in recent weeks.
Change the continuity right now, but unless Green just really does well in practice, and Freeling, but I give him credit. Boy, he stepped up from that Tennessee game on. I mean, been strong.
He's been good. Big Sky Dog says, I always hear rumors about Todd Hartley and job openings. I don't know.
Todd Hartley's he's an outstanding coach. He's going to get a head job here. Several of our guys, Schumann, these guys, that's just the way it is. But at this point, it doesn't look like the job market's going to – sometimes some guys get at the end of the year, things happen. But I would say he'd be around here at least for another year based on the opportunities. Now, I know some teams maybe reached out to him. But when you're in a situation like he's in Georgia, you got to be real careful. You can be selective. I mean, it's hard to be on a super highway and go on a back road, getting to somewhere when, that back road's not really, really well paved. You know what I mean? It's hard to go do that. And he's got a young family that really loves it here. And he's relatively young in the coaching world as far as and he's also got 2 stallions coming in here.
That's what I was going to say. He's got some dudes he's going to want to coach here.
Coaching those guys up too. So he's done a great job, and he does a good job in the kicking game too.
This question came in and I got lost in my email. I was actually trying to find something, and I realized that I punted this email. So feel bad for Jonathan Griffin. He's been waiting on this one for a long, long time.
All right.
Jonathan's been asking about in this whole Georgia's trying to deal with NIL stuff. And he said basically you have some NIL schools and you have some schools who get their players better because of development. In other words, Georgia develops its players, other schools buy their players. So his question is, do you think that the players coming from developmental programs are going to have more or be more desirable to NFL teams than guys who were coming from those NIL programs? So the NIL kids, they're really good because colleges paid $1 million for them. But
what's his name?
Jonathan Griffin.
Hey, Jonathan, I can just tell you this. That would have been a good question 2 years ago. But anybody's in a developmental school right now trying to compete with NIL can say goodnight, Gracie. I don't care how much you can't make chicken salad out of chicken manure. And you're not going to develop these guys because you're not going to get them because you're not paying them. So you better be NIL. And here's the thing for it. I'm not trying to be too smart here to him, but this revenue sharing is going to help all these developmental schools because they're going to get $20.5 million to put into those NIL things. But the teams that are winning right now, the top 25, 30 teams, there's not a developmental school in there. They're all NIL.
I think, Coach, he means schools that do more developing their players, versus well, let's put it this way. Let's look at it the other way. If you're an NFL guy, do you want
maybe I got the wrong typecast, but if you're not developing your players, you're going to be getting your ass beat as a coach. So, maybe, but I would say that the NFL is going to pick out the good players based on the way they perform and the way they do it. And the
question though is the good player one who jumped from school to school to school to get a bigger and bigger deal, or the one who has stayed in one spot and gotten better and better each year?
Well, I mean, you could still get better. I mean, look at Gabriel. You think he hasn't gotten better?
Jahmyr Gibbs.
Hey, look at what they've done. So you can talk about it both ways, but usually if you can't cut it, whether you're making money or not, they're not going to draft you. I mean,
that's good.
And there's developmental coaches everywhere, and that's part of the deal. But we're the cookie cutter right here. I mean, we develop them here. And
it's also just the standard. Look at all the Heisman winners that have transferred in recent memory. I mean, it's a majority of them.
Yeah, and you also, I mean, that's true. I mean, look at OU's quarterback situation. All those guys, Baker Mayfield, and then
Kyler Murray.
And then Hurts came in there, and Hurts got improved immensely playing under Lincoln Riley. But out Southern Cal, I mean, they've lost 9 out of their 11 players in their top 2 classes in the last 2 years. I mean, that's a sinking ship out there, man.
See, everyone was talking about Ryan Day. I'm like, what the hell has Lincoln Riley done to hold on to his job?
Yeah, Lincoln. I mean, man,
it's like, hey, great, you won us a Heisman. Congratulations. Our team sucks, and we lost all our good players.
You just never know what's going to happen in coaching, but it's scary what happens. But I would like to say this on a close. Are we ready to close?
We're closing.
From New Orleans, Louisiana, 18 gold records, 6 gold albums. Antoine Fats Domino. I found my real on Blueberry Hill, on Blueberry Hill, when I found you. I love old Antoine every time I hear. And that's the last time I'll ever sing on this show. But when you get old,
it isn't. No, it isn't. You're lying.
Antoine, man, I haven't done that
tonight. It's the last time you'll sing tonight.
Yeah, but I'm serious about the wind in the willow play, the sweet melody. But all of those vows you made were never to be. Though we're apart, I'll follow you still. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Because you are my thrill up on Blueberry Hill.
My man. My father's favorite. When you start singing that, it makes me think of my dad, because he would walk around the house singing the one line. He never sang the second line.
I can just tell you this. I'm James Brown about this Georgia team right now. I feel good about them. I just feel like hitting our stride a lot of different ways. I worry about the punter just because, but I feel like put some Kevlar around ETN the next few days.
I love it. All right, folks, we will be back. Well, wait, I won't.
That's Christmas next week. Y'all have a show if you want, but I'm not planning on it.
Yeah, it's gonna be a little tight there.
Hey,
I think the next time they see us, it's on a watch along show.
well, I mean, when is the next? We can't do something on Christmas Eve. I mean, what?
Yeah, we got to get off the calendar there. So yeah, it would be next show would be Christmas Eve.
I got to get this for all our fans out there, just so they know, because I really. Wait a minute. I hate these commercials.
Oh, that's the ad. I thought he was.
Yeah.
I'm like, that ain't even sung out now.
Wait a minute.
Here we go again. It's not your fault.
All right, I got to get this off here, and then I'm. All right, here we go.
Yeah, Eddie, you're right.
This gets me jacked to the max here.
I know what this is. Played that last year. Now that's singing.
I love you, dog fans. I love you, man.
We will see y'all. I will let you know when we're going to be back on. We might have a Christmas special. We might have a Christmas special a little bit earlier than that. If not, we will talk to you the days after Christmas as the team heads down to New Orleans. We'll see you next week. Y'all take care.